which is in the four corners of Whitby. Thank you both for joining me tonight. So let's just dive right into it. For those of you who were with us last month for the July Facebook Live, knows that we had a hot button topic. The topic was about mothers that treat their sons as their spouse, particularly leaning on them heavily for financial support, emotional support, and that can often cause a rift in that man's personal life. I'm going to read you the message that was sent to me that started this whole discussion, and then we'll go on to discussions of part two. And this is just for those who weren't with us last month and just as a refresher of what was discussed. The message I received said this: some mothers refuse to marry or start a new relationship when they have sons, especially when the son is a product of her first love. Once they lose that first love, their son becomes their provider. They naturally don't care if the son has his own life with a wife and children. Don't get me wrong, children should help their parents whenever they can, but a mother should never depend on her son for everything, especially when she has other children. Some examples are she wants to go on vacation, he has to pay for it. Nails and hair to be done, he has to pay for it. Church function, he has to pay for that. Remember, she is still young enough to work and take care of her financial needs. Saying all of this, he has his own family to feed, mortgage to pay, rent to pay. The son is out there working to care for his obligations. As a wife, you cannot say anything because they will take it as a negative. So the wife of the son is stuck watching this but not being able to say anything. And truthfully, it's probably not her place to say anything. The wife girlfriend just watches him work himself into the ground because whatever mom wants, mom should get. Again, don't get me wrong, we should all help our parents if and when they genuinely need it. If and when they genuinely need it. That is when they can no longer do for themselves. But depending on your son for everything, especially when he has his own family, is a bit much. Now she gave an example of one of the examples that she experienced, and that caused quite a reaction from those of you who were watching last month. The example she gave was they had had plans to spend some time together. They don't often see each other because of their shifts. One works days, I believe, and one works mornings. However, it works. They're just like two ships passing in the night. So they don't often get time to spend together. So this particular morning, they decided to go out for breakfast. She drove because of he was tired just coming from work. So she elected to drive. On their way to wherever they were going, his mom called. She had to go somewhere. Remember, she owns a house with her daughter who also drives and doesn't work. I was driving, the lady that gave me the story was driving, and she had to pull over, get out of the car, give him the car to go to his mother and do whatever she needed done, and she called her sister to pick her up from the side of the road. Now, a lot of you had a lot to say when I read that. I mean, the vexation was coming through. Some people said nonsense. Some people said, why she get out of the car? Some people said, I'd still be in the car. I mean, there was a lot of comments. I could say, just thinking about it, and not even actually speaking to her about all the details. I haven't spoken to her about why did you get out of the car and has this happened before. Something tells me that she's dealt with this before and she knows how it goes if she puts up any resistance. So for her, it's just easier to get out of the car and find her way home. So that prompted a lot of comments from everybody. We talked about things like accountability, communication, respect, boundaries, consideration, what role the wife slash girlfriend can or cannot play. So that discussion was so rich and so lengthy, we had to have a part two. And so here we are with part two, and I didn't come alone because I needed backup. So, Joseph, tell our viewing audience a little bit about your dynamics in terms of marriage, your mother.
Well, right now, uh, I live with my mom and my wife. We're there together, so it's pretty a cool setup. My mom is not fully dependent on me, but in some things she is dependent on me, in terms of like cutting grass, you know, the little things around the house. If there's something broken, or putting up the light fixtures, I do that stuff. Um, but there's always a dynamic to mother and wife relationship, and so I also have a sister there too that is there too as well. So and she drives my mom around, so I don't really have to do that. So which is kind of cool. But if I do have to drive my mom around, I will.
Mm.
So, but you know, so my mom is pretty cool, but there are some times where you will find yourself in a situation where mom will probably forget that, hey, he's married, so you will find yourself in a situation where it's like she will just call you out of the blues, not really thinking that it's going to affect the wife, and so sometimes you might have to end up saying, hey, mom, you gotta be just this could affect us, so just be careful of courses, how you call me, at what time, how to do it. So that's pretty much.
Is she okay when you do that though? When you say, "Mom, like you gotta remember," is she okay with that?
My mom is she's a different type of a person. She's very mindful, but at the same time, sometimes she will forget, or maybe not think about it.
Hmm.
So sometimes you have to jot it. You just have to jot her.
And when you do remind her, is she okay with that? Does she say, "Oh, it's like sorry, son," or does she pop a little bit of an attitude? Is there that whole "but I'm your mom" type
I am
kind of
happy.
reaction?
Well, not every mom is like this, but my mom in particular, she will be very respectful of it. So, and I've heard the reason why I say it like that is because there's some stories that some mom is not, and I've heard and seen they're not uh, very open to that. They're
Hmm.
like, you're my son. It's all about me, But my mom is a little bit different, and I thank God for that.
And how does your mom and your wife get along?
Well, they get along great, but there has been little rough patches because of misunderstanding, but overall they do get along great. But there's and sometimes talking, my wife will probably see this this, but you know sometimes there's misunderstanding. So me as the man, I step in and I talk with the wife and tell her, hey, so and so, and I remind her of her relationship with her mom. You know what I mean? So sometimes we have to work things out because with relationships, there's always ups and downs. So you have to work things out. So when I say work it out, um, you have to run through different things as happening and deal with it as it is. Or if I don't, it could be a problem.
Problems.
Right.
Hmm. Problems. So this is not your dynamic, but if it were your dynamic, if you found yourself in the middle of your mother's demands, come take me here, come pay for this, if you're going on a trip, she has to come. If that was your dynamic and your wife was saying to you, no, no, this is not what I want for my marriage, how do you see yourself handling that? It's not your dynamic, but what if it were?
If it were my dynamic, I personally, it will be. I must agree that it will be difficult, but the kind of person I am, and I believe I'm blessed with that gifting. The kind of person I am, I would try to work it out, and I'll always take the Bible way
Mm,
to do good and communicate. For this, the Lord is well pleased. So regardless of what,
amen.
that's the way I go,
All
or
right.
that's the way I will go.
All right. We're going to pause for a second because I'm being told that we have a comment.
So before Joseph spoke, when you just got started and you were reading
Yes. The,
your
the message that started this whole
mhm,
discussion.
Lana Marget said we need to spend more time on boundaries these days, and Paula has just said, "Amen, brother." You might want to repeat it for Paula.
Awesome.
So we have one comment that just simply said "Amen, brother," and then we have the first comment that wants us to spend some time on boundaries. So before I hand it over to Sandra, And I will speak about boundaries because that was one of my niece who joined us last time. That was her biggest comment. Even afterwards, when we were talking about it at home, she was saying, "Aunt Lou, where's the boundaries? Where are the boundaries? It's all about boundaries." And we're African, um, but me and my niece and everybody after my sister and brother were born here in Canada. So there's that dynamic of when you're back home and back home we don't and back home we do, which drives my daughter, my niece, and my nephew crazy because we have all these standards that we grew up with. This is a huge thing back home because back home it's all about the parents. And you're Trini.
Mm-hmm.
My parents.
All right. When your mother says come, let's go, you come, let's go. There is no but my husband said, but my wife said, because everybody getting slapped, the husband, the wife, everybody in trouble. So you just go. But it's a different era now where we have our own lives. Where is the respect? Where is the boundaries? Again, like my friend said to me, and like I need to repeat, we're not saying this is not about not helping your parents. Everybody that knows me and knows me well knows that my mom and I live together. I am her primary caregiver. She is not well. So a lot of my days is spent taking care of her. I believe it's a blessing, it's an honor, and it's a privilege to take care of the mother that took care of me. But I have to have boundaries as well. I have a life to live, right? I'm not married, and I know that I think about how my future husband will fit into that. But I serve such a good God, a God that's not of confusion. He's not a messy God. So he's not going to send me somebody who's going to say, I want no part of your mother. That's just too much work. God won't do that to me. I'm expecting my husband to completely understand, to love my mother like his mother, and help me take care of her, not run from taking care of her. But there has got to be boundaries. I had to set boundaries in my relationship with my mom. Yes, I'm going out. And then she'll ask if my daughter's going to be home. I'm like, nope, she's going out too. So who's going to be with me? You're fine. I'm leaving you with God. I've prayed over the house. I'll be back in a few hours. You have to, because you teach people how to treat you. And
Amen to that.
If you keep like, okay, mom, I won't go. Okay, mom, I won't go. All y'all sitting in the house whole day. She's sleeping whole day, and you're just sitting there because I can't even answer the because. Right? So there's you have to set boundaries, if for no other reason, for your peace of mind. As a life coach, I speak a lot about prioritizing self-care, and that's one of it. I talk a lot about putting your mask on first. That's another thing. If you don't take care of yourself, if you don't put your mask on first, you are no good to nobody else. That's my boundary talk. Sandra,
Whew.
go ahead, girl. I know you're married with children.
Listen, I'm married with children, but when you were reading the message, I was over here having reactions because I was like, there are no boundaries. First of all, I've been married for 27 years. I have 2 sons. There is no way I was getting out of that car. I wasn't even pulling over. We were going to go and take care of his mother together. And I'm a strong personality. I want what I want and what I need. And as my husband is the best. I have a fantastic husband. And we exhibited or had some of these similar things happen at the beginning of our relationship. And it was hard for him. I watched him struggle to take care of his family and be at home for the family he's creating.
Be the husband and father that he is.
And that was tough. I had to be understanding to a point to ensure that I was supporting him through the transition, because it is a transition. I listened when you said you would speak to your wife, but I didn't hear you say, I will speak to my mother. And I had a reaction when you said that. I was like, you're only speaking to your wife? Because both parties have to respect the position of the other person. I have to have respect for the fact that these are the people that raised my husband. These are the people that made him the man that I fell in love with.
Amen.
So I have to have respect for them.
All right.
Now, I am the woman he fell in love with, and they have to have respect for me as the one he's chosen. So everybody has to have boundaries around here. And my husband, I have to support him through this transition because it's not easy for him. He is not going to wake up tomorrow morning and go, "Hun, but just let me." No, he is going to navigate that, and I've got to navigate it with him. I've got to tell him what my expectations are, and I've got to hear his expectations. And if we can't, the threesome, have respect for each other, it's not going to work. I got to tell you, I wasn't getting out of that car, though.
Well, see, lots of people said they weren't getting out of that car, but I also understand when you know what and who you're dealing with, you get out of the car.
We were going together.
I like that point.
We were going together.
I like that point. I like that. Turn the car around.
I would have gotten out of the car
Yeah.
to let her sit in the front seat when we arrived, but I wasn't getting out of the car and had to find my own way home. That's no respect for me. What about me as a woman, a person? You didn't have respect for me to say, "Okay, I'm going to go take care of my mom." No, let's go together, hon. We'll go together.
I like that. I like that. I like that approach of let's go together. Let's do this together. Let's go take her where she wants to go, drop her off, and then continue our
on.
day.
Yes.
I like that. Just checking in for any more comments.
Paula said, yes, Sandra. It's all about family, unity, but for health, we need boundaries.
We need boundaries. We need to be respected. However, in order for us to be respected, we have to demand it. That means that we just don't tolerate everything that comes our way. A lot of the times I will hear this, "Oh, it's just easier to let him blah, blah, blah. Let him do this, let him do that. Tired fighting with him, tired arguing with her, doesn't get me anywhere, too much of the arguing." Well, then what you've done is you've created an environment within your home, within your family, that it's okay for him or her to treat you that way. And if you're okay with that, that's fine with me, but then don't complain about it.
Exactly.
But if that's not okay with you, you have to teach them early on. And you said this, that in the beginning, you dealt with it a little bit. You probably saw the writing on the wall and you said, "Yeah, no, this is not going to be my life." But you understood that I have to support him to a point, and then he will have to leave them and cling to me as the spouse. You said that when you've got dynamics with your mother and your wife, you speak to your wife. I was not as sharp as Sandra to jump and pick up quickly.
I have to come in here,
All right.
right? Because I didn't. One of the things is that I do speak to my mom too as well, because my mom is very easygoing.
Good.
So I don't have a problem speaking
Is
with
your
my
wife
mom.
easygoing? Is she a little fireball? Like, uh-oh.
Listen, sometimes I know my wife will be listening, so I mean, she is a fireball. Yes, she is. But I am blessed with the ability to speak.
Okay.
So one of the things is that I learned early on, and recently I've actually put it into place, is that you have to teach people how to treat you.
Yes.
And that's number one.
100%.
So one day we were, and I have to say this because this is very important. One day we got into an argument, and
Who's
things.
we? I'm sorry. Be
My
specific.
my wife and myself.
Okay.
We got into a little argument, and I realized that, you know what, I think this is now going the right way. So I said, you know what, no. I have to show you how to treat me in this case, and I expect that you will teach me how to treat you. So I put that in place as a boundary. So since you were talking about boundaries, so
No, I think that's really great, and I think that's really important. We give people permission to treat us a certain way by allowing them to do certain things. Had he not said to her, "Okay, no, wait, this is not how this is going to go," right? And he stopped it right then and there. He nipped it in the bud right there. That's how you do that. That's how you teach people how to treat you better. I have said this to people. I've said it at my conferences. I've counseled people, not counseled, but coached people, and even with my friends. If you allow somebody to do something over and over and over again that you do not like, but you don't stop them, you don't say anything to them, you don't say, "I don't like that, it hurts my feelings, I really don't like when you do that," 5 years later, the reason why they're still doing it is not because they're mean. It's not because they want to hurt you. They honestly don't know any better because you have taught them that it's okay.
That's right.
So they don't even know what they're doing to you is wrong. They don't even know that it's hurting your feelings. But here, what will happen if the first time they did that, you stopped them? They did something that you didn't like, and you turned to them right away and you went, I don't really like that.
Can I say something there? One of the things is that I realize just for relationship in general, we tend to look at people's faces and we get afraid. What is this person gonna? How is this person gonna feel what I say? But the Bible says, don't be afraid of their faces. So the moment that we can get over the fear of being afraid of the faces of the people, even if they're close to you, you will be able to get ahead in relationships so much better, in my opinion.
And I think it's not just the faces we're afraid of. Let's be real. You especially a lady like, okay, myself, I'm still waiting for the Lord to bless me with my husband. Some guy walks along. He doesn't check all the boxes. Maybe about 1/3 of them, he'll do. He'll do, and you just go with the flow. But you know that's not what you want, not who you want, not who you've been asking God for. But he's going to do, and he starts doing the things that you do not want, that you do not like, and you don't say anything about it. You said you noticed, Sandra, that this was happening with your husband early on, and you said, okay, I'm gonna give it some time, but in your mind, in your head, in your thoughts, how much time did you think you had to give him?
It's interesting you say that, because I'll tell you my story. When I first started dating my husband and we became a couple, he would take his relatives shopping on Saturday, grocery shopping, and it would be an entire day. And I'd be like, when are we doing our groceries? And it came to a point where now I'm bubbling over because I wanted to be respectful of the fact that they didn't drive, they didn't have a car, he lived with them. So now that he's living with me, that aspect is missing from their life. So he can't stop. And then I decided, you know what? Here's the thing. We had a conversation about it. Go take them grocery shopping, but make sure that you've left time for us to do our grocery shopping. And if when you're out, pick up for us as well. So it became easier for me to manage, right? And when you speak about faces, I have one of those faces. You don't want to say something to me that you think I'm not going to like because it's written all over my face.
My wife is the same thing.
But I'll tell you, my husband is a very easygoing, really cool cat. Nothing upsets him. And early on in our relationship, I'm a firecracker. If you know me, I'm a firecracker.
My wife too.
And in an argument, I cursed. I swore. And he stopped right dead in his tracks. I said, I don't curse you. I don't want you cursing me. And I was like,
What happened to the firecracker?
The firecracker went, because he's so easygoing.
Yes.
He's so easygoing that when he said that with authority, I was like, I'm not going to curse no more. And because I was a curser, I cuss. It make me mad. And I'm like, ba 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 ba. I had to really consciously think about it every time I got upset because I knew my husband didn't like it. And to not disrespect him, I had to change me. I had to change the way No, seriously. 27 years and counting. He has taught me so much about how to treat people. He's a kind soul. He treats everyone with love and respect. I'm a firecracker, so make me mad. Love and respect takes a back seat to my mouth. My husband said, no, I can't do that. We can't be in a relationship with that happening. I love you, but we can't do that. I had to change.
Wow, I love that. 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 Both of you guys are just bringing really good dynamics to this discussion. Another thing that came up when we were talking about this story involving my friend was communication. This poor wife or girlfriend, whoever she may be, and my friend, it's not my friend's place to have a conversation with his mother. It's not. She can't do that. That's completely outside of what she should be doing. The conversation, the communication should be between the son and his mother. where he says to his mother, I'm married.
Mm-hmm.
If you've got an appointment or if you need me to take you somewhere, drop you off, pick up something, you got to give me some notice. You can't call
Right.
me in the morning and say, can you come and get me right now? I love my mother dearly. She does that.
Mm-hmm.
Baby girl, can you go to Walmart for me and pick up such and such? I'm like, sure, mommy, what do you need? She'll tell me, I'm like, okay, the next time I'm on the road, I'll pick it up. Oh, you can't go now? Here's the thing. Even if I can go now, even if I'm not doing anything, I won't. I don't want her to get into the habit of saying, can you go now?
Because you set boundaries.
Because you have to set boundaries,
Mhm.
right? So he can say to his mother, I have no problem picking you up. I know you play bingo on Tuesday nights at the church. So I know either me or my wife on Tuesdays will drop you off at bingo. And now he will communicate to his wife, mommy has bingo on Tuesdays. And that becomes part of the family dynamic.
Yep.
It's either him and or the wife taking mommy to bingo, right?
Absolutely.
You can't call me at 4 o'clock on Tuesday telling me you signed up for bingo and the first one says is at 6 o'clock. Can you take me?
Mm-hmm.
It can't work that way. But
Yeah.
you, son, have to set that boundary with your
Yep,
mother.
I agree.
You have to then communicate that with your mother. Then you have to communicate the arrangements you made with your mother to your wife.
True.
Once all that communication has
Yes.
taken place, now
Yeah.
nobody vex.
You can't skip.
You can't.
Yeah, you can't skip
And
the steps.
that communication though has
Yeah.
to be with the three. It
Yes.
can't be just with mom. It has to be, hun.
Yes.
Mom's asked me to go take her to bingo.
You're right.
Can we do the thing we need to do on another day?
Mm-hmm.
I have two sons, 30, almost 30, and and 27. Sorry, they're gonna kill me if they see this. Almost 30 and 27. My sons, if I ask them to do something and they're busy, they'll tell me, Mom, can't do it right now. I'll do it for you in a minute.
Mhm.
I'll do it for you tomorrow. When do you need it done?
Mm-hmm.
And hopefully that translates when they get into relationships and move on to with their families, that the same thing, they're doing it to me now and they're not in a relationship and they're doing it to me now. So I think it's something that their father showed,
Mm-hmm.
right? And then through our relationship, we showed them how to communicate. I communicate. My husband does not. He doesn't say anything. He just, But I'm the one that's always talking. So the children see that and they see you got to communicate. You got to say what you need. And I'm always telling them, don't sit back and let people tell you what they want you to do and you don't speak up for yourself. So now
That's
they're
good.
telling me, they're setting my boundaries for me, right? There's lots of things. I need help around the house. We're getting older. My boys are men. They can help out, and I'll ask, can you do this? Yep. When do you need it done by? I tell them, okay, I'll have it done by then. I've got to accept that.
Mhm.
They've got a life. They've got things that they're doing. They've got their own friends,
Mm-hmm.
and I've got to accept that. And so does my husband. We can't expect that their life is going to revolve around taking care of my needs.
Exactly.
What they're also doing that I like is when they do find their significant other, it's not going to be a shock to you. You're not going to accuse them of picking so and so over you. Also, she's more important than me. That's not going to happen. You're already quite aware that when you ask them to do something, it's when you need it done. Okay, I'll get it done by the way you need it done. So for you, Joseph, and your wife and your mother, and you guys are all living together.
Mm-hmm.
So that's even a more I don't want to say stressful, but a whole different dynamic that you guys are living together. How's that communication go? You said that you often speak to your wife, who's a firecracker, and then you speak to your mom sometimes too. But you also have a sister. You said that's there.
Yep.
And so does everybody work together, communicate? And wait, do you and your wife have kids?
No.
Okay, so there's no kids in the house.
Yeah.
'Cause that would be another dynamic.
My relationship is a very unique
Mhm.
relationship. Reason being because I guess early on, well, my mom, the way how she is, she's easygoing. But I think for me, because of who I am and how I am, I loved communication. So, whereas your husband don't speak much, I'm the communicator. You know, and because when I met my wife, she was pretty quiet, and I said, nope, you're gonna have to start talking. So I pushed her and pushed her. Now she talks.
Yeah, he talks now too.
Yeah.
Darn it.
Well, both of you got what you wanted. You got
Yeah.
what you wanted.
So yeah, I really, I think you have to, whatever you want, you have to create it. You have to
Yes.
make it happen.
Yes.
And so that's what I do.
Yes.
In terms of my mom and my wife and my sister, we have a good relationship.
That's nice.
Yeah, but sometimes there is times where someone do something that the other one don't like, and sometimes, but I would hear it, So in my own way, I deal with it,
Mhm.
you know.
I think you hear it because you're the peacemaker. I think you're the communicator. So
Big time.
that's why you hear it.
And you're the common denominator, right?
Yes.
You're the common denominator. You're
Yes.
the husband to the wife and the son to the mother.
Wow.
Yes.
So it's going to come to you. And,
Yes.
and those two parties have to be understanding to the pressures that you have to deal with when you're dealing with one versus the other. It's tough.
Yeah.
It's tough. But my opinion is boundaries need to be set. Respect from
Respect.
everybody
Absolutely agree.
all around.
And
Absolutely.
And communication.
Yeah.
For sure.
And you said something about your husband when you cuss. that was classic.
I love it.
And then your husband says nope, and I saw myself like that too, because when I said nope, this is it, we're not having that. So there are some things that I see my wife will do, and there's some times where I said, you know what, enough is enough. This gotta stop.
Yeah.
And this is a tip, and I love this one because I talk to a lot of people in relationship, and what I say is sometimes you have to speak, whether the person gets upset or what, you still have to talk it out and say exactly what's in your heart so that they can hear it.
Yes.
And I remember saying something to my wife. I wouldn't disclose what it was. I said something to my wife because I didn't really appreciate what she did. And she was upset. And I was like, I had to say what I had to say. Do you know the next day I saw the change? Even but my view on that is you just have to speak what's in your heart, and once the person hears it, it doesn't matter what it looks like after that. Just move away.
But you have to speak it respectfully.
And
yeah,
and
that's
you're
my
right.
point. That's my thing.
You know what? You're right.
Yes.
You're right. And thank God I'm respectful. I'm a respectable person. I'm very respectful in that regard. So I take her feelings into consideration. A lot of men don't, but I do. But there are some guys that I actually talk to, and I try to tell them, hey, you do it this way and do it that way, and they take some of them take the advice, and they actually see results. So
That's so interesting that you say that, and it's so important. When my husband and I started dating, living together, married, the whole 9 yards, make me upset, I'm upset for days. I'm not talking to you for days, because that was the immature way I dealt with things that bothered me, right?
Yes.
And my husband would be like, no, we're not going through the house not talking to each other, and we're not going to bed without a kiss, because you don't know if you're waking up tomorrow morning. So I had to adapt to that, because as Olu said, you're waiting for God to send you the right man.
Yeah.
He sent me the right man. This is my second marriage. So my husband was the man that I prayed for, and here he is. So I can't, now that I've gotten the person that I want, be like, yeah, you can't tell me what to do.
All 24/7.
Right.
And my husband grew up in a family where his parents got along. They kissed each other goodnight. They didn't
Myself.
argue.
Where he got it from.
That's where he got it from. So he comes with that upbringing, and he shares that with my sons. And I'm tagging along for the ride, because I know it's where I need to be.
Right.
It's where I need to be. I'm better now. Please, I'm better now. I'm 60 years old. I'm better now.
See, what I love about this is, had he not stopped you, that first time that you turned into a cussing you-know-what.
Temper tantrum, I'll say.
Temper tantrum.
So
that's
27 years later, you still be cussing this man. You would. And that's if your marriage had lasted that long, because at some point he would have said, because that's not how he was raised, that's not what he's accustomed to, and he would have said, but then I would have looked at him and said, that's your fault.
right.
Because the first time she cussed you should have stopped her, which he did. I like that. We've talked about boundaries, we've talked about communication, we've talked about respect. And the last point to this whole thing is accountability, responsibility. How much accountability do we take on ourselves for some of the treatment that we get? I would love to know Joseph's take and Sandra's take, what advice they would give my friend, my dear friend who wrote to me and said, this is what I want you to talk about. How do we deal with this? And the funny thing is, every time I told somebody about this topic, I swear everybody knows at least one scenario like this. It is not uncommon. Unfortunately, it's very, very, very common. You both have different dynamics, some similarities, but different dynamics.
Yes, your husband sounds a lot like me.
Yeah. What advice would you, Sandra, what advice would you give our listeners who's having the same issue of what do I do?
We talked about it earlier, and it's having people treat you the way you want to be treated. And that comes from self-confidence and self-respect for me, in my mind. Because I wouldn't have gotten out of that car. I wouldn't.
Sandra's still in the car.
I'm still in the car.
Just for the record, she's still in the car.
And while we were in the car together, the two of us, we would have had that conversation about why I'm not getting out of the car, and we're going to do this together and so on, because I'm confident in who I am.
Yeah. Let me interrupt you for a second. I'm sorry to do that.
It's okay.
I think what you're talking about, what she should have done, needed to have happened months or years ago.
Yes.
That particular time, that moment in the car, it was too late at that point. She probably had been dealing with these kind of things, maybe not the exact same scenario, because it was too easy for, as I know us women, the CP24 would be there because, we've handcuffed ourselves to the car. I mean, I'm just saying some of us are like that. I'm not telling you who. I'm not calling names. I'm just saying some of us all now still in the car because it's that. But I totally see where you get to the point where it's like, I'm not doing this. Take the blasted car. I'll find my way home. I think it started before that car.
I don't know if I would have ever gotten to the point of take the plastic car, see my way home. To be honest, no, but you just said it, so I'm like, I think a lot of it for me is self-confidence. I really do. Being confident in the person that you are and demanding the respect that you deserve. So yes, you're right. It didn't just start that day in the car. It started long ago. And if she didn't have the confidence and the self-respect to say, I deserve better than this treatment, it would have been hard.
Yeah.
It would have been really hard. I think I had to take accountability for the potty mouth I had. Don't get me wrong, I'm not a trucker. But but when I got upset, I go from 0 to 60 like that. My husband, I don't think he's ever gotten to 40. Right? He's just cool, Mr. Cool Cucumber. Nothing really phases him. So watching him, he's taught me how to be better as a person. He's taught me how to have self-control and to watch how I affect other people. Right? He's taught me that. I wouldn't be the woman I am today without his guidance and his behavior and he's raising 4 children and teaching them the same thing.
And there's some girls in that mix.
Some girls in that darn mix.
That means that they know what kind of man to look for.
They know the man
husband.
to look for in a husband.
Wow.
And every time, so my oldest daughter is 37, my youngest is 23, and they've had relationships. And if that relationship fails, the first thing I hear, but he's not like dad.
Oh my God. Your dad needs to start having classes for men.
Right?
He's not like dad.
That's a problem. There's not that many dads out there like that. He has to create some, you're right.
He's not like dad. And I'm like, but it
Oh
took
my
dad
gosh.
it took dad time to get there too. He's a great person, but it took him time to get there because with that there's other downsides, right? Not standing up for yourself. Like he would let people do whatever because he's not going to make a fuss. Right, not at all. So there's downsides to that. But the girls are like, he's not like dad. My sons, My daughter said to me the other day, "You don't even call me mom. Dad calls me every day." And I was like, "All right, I got to do better."
Challenge.
I think I would have been smart, and I'd come back and say, "Well, Dad's calling you every day. He's telling you what you say, so
He is telling me.
so I good. I good." Joseph, what would be your advice to the lady who has this whole discussion started? The discussion about the scenario that she's in with her husband and feeling the way that she feels. You almost feel like you're a second class citizen. That your feelings don't count. What's important to you doesn't count. If your spouse is always running out the door when your mother calls, what would be your actually? Oh, thank you, Holy Spirit, for that.
Mm-hmm.
Not what would your advice be to her. What would your advice be to him? What if he was a yeah? If he was a friend of yours,
Mm-hmm.
and you knew, and I was a friend of yours, and I was like, man, Joseph, my friend, her husband, blah blah blah. What would you say to him?
So he's not standing up for his for himself and standing up to his mom.
Mm-hmm.
I would say it's very hard sometimes to stand up to your mom, but if you stand up to your mom in love, like if you really love your mom, you would tell her the truth because everybody who loves tells the truth. And so I believe that if he takes that approach, it will be easier for him to talk to his mom.
Agreed.
Yeah, because he knows that if he doesn't talk to his mom, it's not only going to affect his mom, it's going to affect his wife, it's going to affect him also. So he needs to get his heart free. Yeah.
I
Great
like
advice.
that. I
Love it.
really, really like that. He has to talk to his mother with love and respect
Mm-hmm.
and let her know what's going on.
Mm-hmm.
If he doesn't do that, what does that say about him?
Fear. That's what
Ooh.
it is. It was just straight out fear. And for people, one of the things is that even okay, my wife, she was afraid to swim.
Oh.
And so we went to Jamaica last year, and we went somewhere else before that, and she was in the water, and it just terrified her.
Oh.
I don't want to go into details.
Mhm.
So when we went to Jamaica, I taught her how to swim. She was doing it herself. She was like basically on her back in the water, not being afraid anymore. It was beautiful. But my whole point is, sometimes you got to take people by the hand and allow them to step in with you.
And stuff outside of that fear.
Yeah, step
you
out of
have
that
to
side of
trust.
that fear and trust. Yes.
You have to trust because
Yeah.
if she didn't trust you to teach her how to swim, if she didn't trust you
Right.
and knew that you had her back,
Yeah.
you weren't getting her to swim.
Right. And she saw me doing it, and so she trusted me.
Yep, she
And-
trusted you.
And what I would say is like, you hold the person's hands and take them through together. Work together.
Everything is together.
Everything is together.
If you don't do it together,
Yeah.
you're not going to get the results you're looking for.
Right. And this is one important thing is you don't rough up a person, like, it's so bad. Like sometimes people don't take the time to be patient with the other person. Cuz every person is like a child inside. Whether they're big or they, you know what I mean? They're like children.
Yes.
And so if you are able to tap into your inner child and move with that, I think wonders will happen.
Wow. What a really, really rich discussion. I mean, I couldn't have expected this. I mean, this was fantastic. I'm so grateful to Joseph and Sandra for joining me tonight. So I just want to recap of what we discussed and the advice that we would give to this friend of mine. I think a lot of it actually, the advice really, most of it should go to her husband. I think she's in survival mode right now. I'm just going to do what I need to do to get me through today. She can't even think about tomorrow. She's just going to get through today. You want the car, take the car. You go into your mom, see you later. I think she's just in survival mode, and I get that. The advice really needs to go to him. And there's a lot of cultural I know we laugh about it a lot, being Trini and African and Jamaican and all that, but it's not a joke. There's a lot of cultural things that are inside of us, especially men.
Mm-hmm.
If he grew up and that's probably he saw his father do and his uncle do and it's generational, that's just who he is. And a lot of them will actually look you in the eye and say, I am who I am and I'm not changing. That's fine that you are who you are and you're not changing. I'm not going to try and change you. I'm not God. But if that doesn't work for you, Miss Woman, whoever you are, then that's on you to leave. If you stay, the accountability is on you because you have put up with this and you have told him by your actions that it's okay.
How can you love if you're not willing to change? How can you say, I love someone, if you're not willing to change your ways based on something that they said they are having a hard time with or that they don't like? I'm struggling with, I'm not saying change who you are as a person,
Mm-hmm.
but when my husband said, I don't curse, I've not grown up around that, I don't like it. If I didn't have love and respect for him, we would still be cursing today.
Mm-hmm.
Or he'd be divorced.
Right. And the same with him. My husband was not a communicator. He would wait for, I would say, don't even ask me what's on my mind because I've already told you. But for him, he would keep it all inside. And I wanted it out of him. And I would say, you've got to talk to me. I don't know what you're feeling if you don't talk to me. And he wouldn't talk and I wouldn't give up. Now, I step on his toe. He's like, you stepped on my toe.
Beautiful.
Why you step on my toe?
Beautiful.
Because I taught him how
Yes, to
I
express.
want him to communicate to me. And he would hear me. He always would hear me. He loved that I can tell him what is bothering me. But he wouldn't reciprocate. But the love we have for each other and the respect we have for each other, we both had to try to change that aspect to
Right.
ensure that we can make this relationship work and we can you're
Beautiful.
chuckling, right?
Yeah, of course.
Because you absolutely have to. I won't take much time, but I'll tell you this. When the kids were young, my husband, everything was the children. Everything was the children. I'm like, what happened to me?
Yeah, of course.
I'm the wife here too.
Not chop
And
liver.
then I said, if you don't remember that we're married and not dive into these children when they leave the house,
Mm-hmm.
I won't know you.
Exactly.
You won't know me.
True.
And he didn't really take that well, I'm going to be honest, but he heard it.
Most importantly.
My children are almost out of the house. They're out, they're back. They're out. My husband, he's not my best friend because there's some things I wouldn't tell him, but he is my everything. And I can tell him anything, and we do everything together. And because he was willing to not lose sight of our relationship in the raising of these children. And that's something I had to share with him, and then he said, okay, well, let's try that. And here we are.
But you start off by saying, how can you love somebody and not change or not trust? Was that your question?
Yeah, how can you say that, how can I say that I love him and he's expressing a concern to me and I not take that concern and see how I can be better at that?
For me, the answer to that is if you don't demand that they do better. It's one thing to say, you did that and I don't like it. And the person says, oh, okay. And then you go your way and they go their way. And then that's it. But in your case, in your example, you said your husband said, oh, no. We're not doing that. He just didn't say, you just cursed at me. I don't like that. And you went, what? So, and?
Right.
Right? He said, oh, no. That's not happening here. He was forceful, respectfully, lovingly, but he let you know that's not happening. That's not happening. Now you had a decision to make.
I had a decision.
I'm going to keep cussing this man and I'll see you in the divorce court in about, 18 months or so because he ain't tolerating this.
Right.
Right? Or I'm going to stop.
Yes.
You set that boundary. You guys had that communication. You set that boundaries. You respected him enough. You took accountability for your foul mouth. And that's where you are today. So I don't know how to answer that. How can somebody say they love somebody and not stop doing what hurts that person? Are they not making their feelings known well enough, hard enough? I have no answers for that. But I really do think a lot of it falls on the husband in terms of if he's not willing to make a change, if he doesn't even see how it's affecting his wife, does he even care that it's affecting his wife? Those are a lot of questions. I don't want to put all the blame on him because we all have accountability.
We do.
But those are the questions, if I were to speak to him, I would ask him, do you know that this is hurting her? Do you even recognize? Aren't you exhausted running back and forth between the pickup and drop off of the mother? What do you have to say in closing, Joseph?
Me, all I have to say in closing is two things. Well,
3 maybe.
maybe
Any more comments?
Jarata said, "This is good."
okay. One of the things is in relationships, biggest thing is unforgiveness. And
That bitterness
know,
we carry around.
oh gosh.
Oh Lord.
And one of the things too is if people are willing to forgive and they know why to forgive and how to forgive, it works out good. You know. So as to what you were saying, Sandra, you know, the arguments with your husband, oh man. Anyways, I'll just stick on forgiveness. Right?
So guarded.
Yeah. So personally, you know, forgiveness is big. Like say if my wife and I were upset about something, I talk to her about it. I don't argue again. I just tell her what I need to tell her, which is I don't do the long talking because it doesn't work. It just makes her agitated and
I
know.
must know your wife somewhere.
yeah.
Well, he wants to know. He wants to know your husband.
Yeah, this is what I'm
Yes.
hearing.
Yeah.
And so one of the
Oh,
things
I would
is
love to host a double date with the two of you all.
gee.
oh gosh. Okay.
I would
Oh,
love
gee.
that.
Well, we'll
you know we
see.
going, eh?
Yeah. So one of the things is I will do personally is I will not hold grudge or anything like that. What I will do is she knows, and I would always remind her, you know, we're not supposed to hold grudge and whatever. We're supposed to forgive each other. So I'll make sure and I will give her a little hug.
Yes.
I'm not vexed with you, and
Yes.
I'll give her a little kiss, and that will break her.
Yep.
I'm sorry, it breaks.
Yep.
Because I understand something. Even though I tell you something that I don't like, doesn't mean I'm your enemy.
Exactly.
Right?
Right.
Yeah.
And you know, what you say about giving her a hug. My husband could care less how mad I am at him. He could care less. He's like, "Hey, what's going on?"
Yeah. That's
And
exactly.
I'm vexed, you know.
This is why it sounds like your husband and me, we're so much alike.
I'm so mad, and he comes up behind me, and gives me a kiss on the side of the neck, and I'm like, "What'd you go do that for? You're not mad anymore."
I love
Yeah.
it. I just love it. Well, I thank you both so much. We can be here for days.
We could be here.
Literally be. I can see us doing a part 4 or 5 somewhere down the road because this was really, really, really good. To my friend who wrote me, I don't have a concrete advice on how to navigate this season that you're in, except to say, treat yourself better. Demand better for yourself. Love yourself. Put your mask on first. Take care of yourself. Do not put your joy and your happiness in somebody else's hands. It's really not for them to make you happy, to fulfill you. You know, I hate that saying, "Oh, he
True.
completed me."
That's right.
No, you didn't.
You need to be
complete
happy
me.
first.
I was whole when God
I was whole,
made
exactly.
me. I was whole and completed when God made me.
That's
You are
right.
an add-on.
That's right.
And if you're not the perfect add-on, you're gonna just keep on passing by, right? So I've never liked that. Oh, they completed me. They completed the circle. No, I would say to you, my friend, love yourself and do not tolerate what does not work for you.
I'm happy all by myself.
Yeah, and I don't think this is his fault per se. This husband, I think it's generational. I think it's cultural. I think he's doing the only thing he knows that he's seen his whole life. And nobody has stopped him. Nobody in his life, no wife, girlfriend, or what have you, has said to him what your husband said to you. your husband was firm and he wasn't playing. You were firm with your wife too. He said,
Mhm.
oh, no, no, no. Both of you guys said the same thing, almost word for word. Oh, yeah,
Mhm.
no. That is not happening. No. Nobody did that with him. And so he doesn't even realize how bad what he's doing is. Unless I'm wrong, and you can call me or text me or whatever later and let me know if you have sat him down and said, what are you doing? I don't like this. Because unfortunately, the only person you can talk to is him. You can't go to his wife, his mother, and say, why are you calling my husband? That's her son. Before he was your husband, he was her son.
That's
so
right.
she doesn't have the place or the space to go to the mother and say anything. You have to go to the son. So if you have spoken to him and he's done nothing about it, then that's a whole other dynamic.
Yeah.
If you haven't spoken to him, he probably doesn't even know
True.
how bad what he is doing. So I that's the best advice I can give. It always boils down to, and I don't know if people think that I'm unfair when I say this, but it boils down to personal responsibility, your accountability. Nobody is responsible for making you happy.
Nope.
It's not Sandra's job. It's
Nope.
not Joseph's job to make me
Nope.
happy. It's not Shireen. Shireen's job is make me look good. Make sure the light is hitting me just so. But
Yeah.
it's nobody's job to make me happy. I put myself in situations that make me happy, and if it doesn't, remove myself.
Right.
So, my friend, I'll be in touch. We'll talk some more. But this discussion was great. Thank you all for joining us.
I still have one more thing to say. you know.
Please do.
Yeah,
In
because
closing, Joseph wants to close off the session.
wow. A lot of people, if you know better, you will do better.
If you know better, you do better.
A lot of people, sometimes they do things
Mm-hmm.
is because they don't know better.
They don't.
So you have to be sympathetic with people
Yes.
because they genuinely do not know better. That's why it's an opportunity and a teaching moment.
Yes.
Absolutely.
And
Yes.
that's all I have to
No,
say.
that's very true. It's very,
Good
very
way
true.
to
Yeah, if people don't know better, they can't do better. But the scary part to what you just said is the flip side of that. When they do know better and don't do better. That's a whole other discussion for a whole nother day.
That's definitely, I ain't
'Cause
touching that one.
Yeah, when you know better and don't do better, and that could be the case in this scenario that we've been discussing for 2 series now.
Yeah.
We don't know, but in closing, I will say this. If you know better, do better. And don't wait for someone to tell you what you're doing is wrong when you know what you're doing is wrong just because you're getting away with it.
Mm-hmm.
Those are my parting words. Thank you all for joining us tonight. Thank you for your comments. Thank you, Joseph. Thank you, Sandra. Thank you, Shireen.
Thank you, Ola.
And I will see you again. I do not have a set schedule for my YouTubes. The YouTube will go live in about 2 days, a couple of days. The podcast will also be available in a few days. So you'll have different methods to watch this. You'll watch it on YouTube. You can watch it on Facebook Live. You can join us live on Facebook or YouTube, or you can listen to us on our podcast as you're driving into the GO train station or stuck on the highway as you're driving to work. So there'll be different means that you can catch us. I have not set a schedule yet for how regular I will be doing these. So it's really important to go onto YouTube, subscribe, hit the notification button so that you can get notifications when new videos do drop. And always go to Facebook. I'll be on there. I drop things in my stories and in my reels regularly just so you guys know that I'm out here thinking about you. Anything that resonates on my heart, I will share with you. Because it really is my focus, my passion is prioritizing self-care, taking care of yourself. Nobody can take care of you better than you can take care of yourself. And that's my passion. So anything that aligns with that I can pass on to you, the Holy Spirit continues to use me as a vessel. He speaks through me, and I'm pleased and blessed for him to do that. So I'll come to you with all content and information that I have. Until I see you next time, thank you, take care, be well, and God bless.